Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to take a look at the new moon in Leo and the astrology that is all being jammed into the last couple days of the month of July here. There's actually a number of transits that are all packing in at once. We've got a new moon in Leo, we have Mercury squaring Uranus, we have Mercury opposing Saturn, and we have the Sun trining Jupiter, all within the course of about 3 days, right in the range of the new moon. And so I think it's good to just take a look at these transits, say a few things about them overall. Um, and also, by the end of this week, we'll also be doing an overview on all of August's astrology. So that'll also capture a lot. There's a lot of amazing transits coming in August as well, but it is a pretty packed end of the month here. So let's take a look at what's going on. Before we do that, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share your comments in the comment section. It helps the algorithm to distribute my channel to other new viewers. Click on the notification bell for updates. You can always find transcripts of my daily talks on my website. As you guys know, that's nightlightastrology.com. All right, so let's pull up the real-time clock, and we are going to take a look at these transits. First of all, on July 28th, we have the new moon in Leo. Now, this new moon in Leo is co-present with a Mercury that is just appearing as the evening star. So Mercury's just coming out from about a 15-degree range of the sun where you can first see Mercury typically appearing. And because it's ahead of the sun, that means it's in the evening star position. So we've got an evening star Mercury in Leo with a new moon in Leo. This combination makes me feel like there's a lot of star power behind this. I wouldn't be surprised if the new moon in the month ahead featured news about famous people, Leonic type of people, solar people, leaders, famous individuals, and the voice or thoughts or words or speech of famous people, or the executive decisions of famous people or even leaders. Or like declarations or something like that. You get that feeling because on the 28th, on the same exact day, you can also see that Mercury in Leo is squaring Uranus in the sign of Taurus, and it's just coming through a square to Mars as well. So these are very potent energies. The Mercury-Mars square, the Mercury-Uranus square at the time of a new moon. But I find it interesting that this new moon also, in addition to the Mercury squares, which feels very declarative, it's like a star power, pride, Leonic declaration. And, Mercury and Uranus is quirky and funny and inventive and bright, but also tends to announce unexpected things or say things that constitute as kind of revolutionary. And then you can also see that this new moon is trine Jupiter, stationing Jupiter in Aries. It's as though something is being done that makes us, it almost launches a process of revision or replanning or revising or reconsidering or coming up with solutions or workarounds. It's like an unexpected something or another that suddenly leads to a change of approach or a change of plans. The need to go back to something or revise something. That could be the case. Also, there's just the feeling of a lot of bravado behind this new moon. When I look at this, I go, okay, you've got a super power dose of fire, right? Mercury in a fire sign square to Uranus in Taurus is, it's an evening star. Mercury in the evening star tends to be more feminine and therefore more tactful and very careful about opinions and appearances and creating harmony with voice, mind, thought, reason. But Uranus doesn't care so much for these things. Oh, but then Uranus is in Venus's sign. So it's this quirky thing about, Leo doesn't want to say anything that is so defiant that, people don't like me anymore. But at the same time, that's Leo. And then at the same time, you have a new moon in Leo trine Jupiter in Aries, which has much more of the feeling of like the king or queen, like putting their scepter down or their spear in the ground and making some kind of, not a declaration of war, although it kind of feels like that, but almost like taking a stand or something. Or the worst here would be that there's a really tricky balance of like expressing something that's authentic. This is me, this is who I am, this is what's real to me, and I don't really care what other people think, but I don't want to be so provocative or rebellious that I ruin, um, you know, it's almost like a celebrity has to be conscious of the audience at all times, right? So you think of the star power of Leo, like having to be very careful about the impression that it's giving off because it wants to maintain that sense of star power, which is only maintained when lots of things are orbiting around, like they're like the star is the sun, right? So you think of the sun as a star. I mean, so you think of everything orbiting around the sun. The sun has to maintain that sense of things orbiting around it, but sometimes has to make decisions that are, provocative, like a leader might have to do, is what I'm saying. So I'm getting that kind of feeling from this new moon, that the cycle ahead has to do with the careful balance between will and sovereignty and strength and pride and being liked and loved or cherished by others, but also having to do or think, say things or make decisions that, not everyone's going to like, or that buck the status quo in some ways, or that disrupt the peace a little bit. There's going to be a real tension between those things, not only here at the end of the month, but since it's a new moon, probably toning the cycle ahead. As soon as this energy comes through, you're going to see Mercury in Leo, then opposing Saturn in Aquarius. And this is where I think things get almost like a little controversial. You can see here's Mercury opposing Saturn. And that Mercury-Saturn opposition, to me, across the Leo-Aquarius axis, again, it brings to mind the idea of the ego being checked, or the consideration of an objective point of view, something bigger or broader that one has to be concerned with, or one should or ought to take into consideration, despite what might feel like the brightness and flair and sort of theatrical self-centeredness of Mercury and Leo. Like I'm concerned about me and my thoughts, but Saturn in Aquarius might be checking that somehow. On the other hand, Mercury in Leo might have to sort of say, look, I don't care if some group of people doesn't like me as a result of what I'm doing or saying, or some individuals that have a different perspective. It's almost like Mercury and Leo might have to say, look, I can't be loved by everyone. Like I'm not going to be a star in every nook and cranny of the world. There's going to be an audience for me, and there's going to be some people who aren't such a fan, and maybe that's a compromise that is being made. Now that could apply in a million different ways, in a relationship or a marriage, with your kids, at work. It could be anywhere where some kinds of choices or considerations like that are happening. I think a lot of this new moon, also look at July 31st, actually, before I say that. So, okay, take it forward to July 31st, last day of the month. And you can also see that the sun is trining Jupiter. Now, the new moon was trine to Jupiter, but here the sun hits the trine to Jupiter right after Mercury passes through the opposition to Saturn. And again, it feels like probably things are leaning in the direction of the Leo sun and the fire energy. Fire's mantra is, I will, mold the world to the shape of my will. And with Leo, there's always a concern for, the generous big heart, that Leos ultimately want to be loved and liked and treasured. I am a gem. I'm a special thing that's worthy of adoration or worship, or I'm a chosen child, or I'm unique, and that doesn't happen in a vacuum. So consideration, but there's also, I think you could say that this whole sequence at the end with Sun trining Uranus is ultimately saying, I have to not care what some people think. And then, or on the other hand, I think the opposite direction would be, I'm leaning too heavily in favor of my ego, my will, my way, and I'm going to lose people if I'm not careful. And that maybe there are people that I should really be more considered or concerned with. And I think it's, and again, I'm applying that now to that could be the person that you're thinking of trying to maintain a relationship with, while trying to figure out how much of your how true you should be to yourself. That could be someone you're dating. It could be something about the nature of a creative project. It could be something about, you know, decisions you're making in terms of you know, this, how original or inventive or defiant you want to be with your career path. So there's a lot of different directions that this energy could go in. It's not, I'm using the analogy of like a famous person, in other words, and it's not like that should be taken too literally. But wow. And if you don't think that this has something to do with individuality and the need to express one's own will and way, regardless of what others think, or that there isn't tension between some larger objective picture or criticism or prohibition or inhibition related to one's own ego, well, what happens the very next day on August 1st? On August 1st, and I talked about this earlier this week, Mars conjoins Uranus. And then you have a picture of the will and the erratic, radical, individualizing energy of Mars and Uranus and the North Node all coming together. So, you know, it is a potentially a moon cycle that is reflective of, you know, the individual versus like some kind of larger or more objective, distanced perspective. You know, I remember my dad was a preacher, and growing up, he would often say that you always have to balance the message with who you're talking to. And I think that's also something. It's something about, you know, who other than ourselves are we concerned with, and why, and is that a good thing or not? So anyway, these are some of the things that I think are going to shape the astrology that comes at the end of this month here. And I felt like it was worth just taking a quick couple of minutes to look at it. And I would love to hear your stories as the end of this month is coming through, how you experience the full moon, or the new moon, excuse me. You'll see me mentioning some of these things in horoscopes for August. So you'll get a little bit deeper take on that. Also, the astrology of August, I have a guest on with me this month who's going to be sitting down and talking with me about some of these transits, especially starting with Mars Uranus. So stay tuned for more to come. And in the meantime, you can always share your stories by using the hashtag grabbed or emailing us grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. We collect those stories and then occasionally do storytelling episodes. So don't share anything you're not comfortable with being used in a future episode anonymously. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments, click the notification bell for updates. You can always find a transcript of any daily talk that I'm doing on my website, nightlightastrology.com. Hope you guys are doing well this week. Just kind of a brief check-in episode today to give you a rundown of this powerful end of the month energy. I hope you guys have a really wonderful new moon, and that you'll leave some comments and tell me how it's going and what you're experiencing as this happens and as the next few days unfold with some of these other transits. That's what I've got. Hope you guys are doing well. See you again tomorrow. Bye.